as a software engineer, what matters most to you when you're looking for a great job or for career growth over the course of the next 5 or 10 years? Or what matters the most when you're looking for a great job in a great company? Is it coding skills, just being able to solve different types of programming problems, architecture or design, analysis and setup skills, or leadership skills? And that's a question that I saw on Quora again, as I do with kind of many of my questions anyways. But it's really important to figure out for you as a software engineer as to what's the most important thing that matters to you, and what are your career goals, and what would you like to do over the next 5 or 10 years. And now, if you're just in the beginning of your kind of career, over the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years probably, it's likely that you still haven't had the chance to review all aspects of the software engineering ecosystem. Because the software engineering ecosystem, again, it covers a broad set of opportunities and challenges and different types of things that you can do on a day-to-day basis as a part of kind of what you want to do as a career. And just as an example, like, you may have started as a QA and like you may enjoy quality assurance, but at some point you may have jumped to software engineering directly. But who says that quality assurance doesn't have automated work, right? You may build automated unit tests, integrational tests, functional tests, and all sorts of other tests, and actually build application testing frameworks as a QA engineer as well. Like, that's just one path that you can take if you have dabbed into the QA ecosystem itself. Now, or you may jump to DevOps, like you can build automation and build scripts and integrate continuous integration, continuous deployments, everything else on a server level by still kind of leveraging your software development skills. Or you can kind of focus on a specific framework or a specific ecosystem or a specific, tool set. Like, could be the JDK and everything else in the Java ecosystem, including Scala and Groovy and Clojure and everything else. Similarly for the .NET stack. Or you may want to be a multidisciplinary engineer or a full stack engineer. Or you may want to become a technical lead, a team leader, a technical architect, technical project manager, technical speaker, trainer, consultant, lots of other things. So the reason I'm mentioning all of those, it's really important for you to decide what your career path looks like, because one of the easiest ways to decide on what matters to you is to see the future and try to reverse engineer the step that you need to take. Like, for example, you want to become one of the greatest technical trainers or so. Now, find the top technical trainers in your specific industry, like your technical stack or something, and go through their LinkedIns, go through their websites and see how they've started, see what sort of steps they took, whether they used to work for small companies or large companies, whether they did some consulting on the side, were they in charge of some freelance activities or something else. Like, once you try to decompose that and structure that, like, it's much easier to kind of break this apart and try to build a success path on your own. And now, it doesn't mean that you need to follow the exact same steps as some of those people. Some of them were just lucky. Some of them were living in a specific kind of city or country where it was possible to work for a specific company. So it doesn't mean that you need to do the very same thing. But once you start establishing and discovering some patterns, it's much easier to leverage those patterns in order to make them a success story for your own life, right? So that's kind of one of the best ways to do that. And along the way, you are probably going to have to work another 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 years or so on your job, or change 1 or 2 jobs along the way. So in that case, it's also important to understand what sort of opportunities you have for that. And I've already had different videos recorded previously for kind of working for small companies versus large companies, and the challenges of freelancing and remote work and things like that. So you may want to check these out, or just check out other videos in order to kind of assess your opportunities and see what works for you and what not. But again, when we get back to the initial question, like, what matters the most? Top-notch coding skills or leadership skills or design, analytical, architecture skills? The answer is, it really depends. Like, leadership skills, you are going to need this if you want to become a team lead, if you want to become a technical project manager, if you want to become a technical entrepreneur, if you want to do technical recruitment. By the way, it's still an interesting field that leadership skills are important, and they're kind of part of the success path that you're going to follow. But again, that's important there. But leadership is not important for software architects. Leadership is not important for R&D developers, for low-level developers working on discovering new optimal algorithms or patents or something else. That doesn't really matter there. It's not something that you need to know, like by far. Also, like when you compare the kind of design analytical skills with coding skills, like right now, coding skills, just being able to solve specific problems may be very important for you, because this is something that would get you a job almost everywhere, because everyone wants to see specific value. Everyone wants to see a return on investment when hiring people. And it only makes sense. When you hire someone, you want to get an ROI. You want to get some problems solved. You want to get some work done by that specific individual. So again, just being able to solve some problems, it's kind of helpful. But for example, does it matter when you do, whether you do competitive programming or go to kind of Olympiads of informatics or something else? Most of the time it doesn't, but there are some businesses that really care about this, like Google and the large businesses. For some reason, their interviews often focus on that kind of question. So if that's what matters to you, you'd rather have to check with them and see what sort of interviews they do and prepare for them and try to apply that over the next 3 to 5 years in order to be working for one of those kind of top-notch organizations. Same goes for innovations in virtual reality, in machine learning, AI, robotics, Internet of Things, things like that, that still can't leverage, they still can't rely on lots of frameworks, lots of infrastructure, libraries, tools, so you have to more or less reinvent the wheel yourself until you get the necessary frameworks on the way. Now, in terms of system analysis and architecture skills, well, that's almost all the time, that's super important for technical leads and also for senior engineers and architects. The more you scale up, the more you jump from, say, entry-level developer, mid-level, senior developer, tech lead or team lead, whatever it is, the more you jump on, the more you're in charge of other people working in your team. So you have to help them do their work. You have to understand more about the software ecosystem and the kind of the bigger picture of the applications you build. So that's where those analytical skills are super important. But there's a certain caveat, like this is really important when you have spent 7, 8, 10 years in the industry as a software engineer. So it's super important. You can't jump to the next level without being able to build a mental map model, a mind map of the entire project in your head and decide what are the challenges, what are the risks, what's ready, what's not, what has to be allocated and delegated. Like, without doing that, you won't be able to have a success story. But at the same time, in order to get there, you should have solved tons and tons and tons of different software engineering problems, which is why coding skills are so super important. So bottom line, you probably need all of the above one way or another, but some of them are more important for you than others, and many of them depend on your career path and career goals and where are you right now in your career as well. Because again, like if you've spent 7, 8 years in development and you want to become a tech lead or an entrepreneur, you already have the coding skills set up, right? That's already something that you've got. So you need to decide on whether becoming an architect or becoming a, some leadership coach, guru, technical trainer, speaker, whatever it is. So deciding on those are important. And like if you decide to kind of jump into a leadership position with only 1 or 2 years of actual hands-on programming, that's really counterproductive. You still don't have the basis right. You still don't know what are the types of problems that software engineers are dealing with. So it makes a lot more sense to actually focus on solving coding problems quickly, understanding design patterns and everything else in the software engineering industry. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Let me know if you think otherwise in the comments, and tell me what your story was on your way to going to the kind of end of your career. And in the end, I'm saying the best case scenario just being the place where you want to be. So like whether you wanted to be a technical speaker, trainer, technical entrepreneur or something else, like how did your success path go for you? What sort of hoops you went through? What really resonated with you? What really worked for you in particular on your way to success?